Black revolutionaries, distillery owners, Italian fashion retailers, and Motown Grammy winners all share their best stories never before told in any other media outlets on Detroit is Different. Visit DetroitisDifferent.com or download the Detroit is Different app on Apple's App Store or Google's Play Store.
You're listening to the Detroit is Different podcast on the Detroit is Different podcast network.
All right, we are back in full effect in the Detroit is Different podcast studios. Today, I got somebody that has been touching microphones and slaying the comedy game for a long time. He looks young, but he's been in the game for a minute. Jeff, how you feeling?
Feeling great. Thanks for having me on here.
Oh, man, definitely. And the Detroit is Different story generally always begins with family in Detroit. How did your family make its way to the Detroit area, man? Where your people from? Whereabouts? What's the backstory?
Yeah, my parents grew up in the Livonia / Westland area, and they actually both went to school with each other, lived down the street from each other.
Ain't that something?
And yeah, they were just like kind of acquaintances and friends throughout as they were growing up.
Okay, now did your dad always like your mom, and then he finally was like, I'm not trying to be your friend?
You know what? I want to ask him that blunt-ass question just that way because what I do know is that one of my mom's best friends and one of my dad's best friends, they both went to prom with that person. So my dad actually went to prom with my mom, a good friend of my mom, and she went to prom with a good friend of my dad. And then now they essentially swapped. And now those two are married to each other right now. Yeah. So okay. they went. But they've always known each other since they were growing up, and then I think when I was a week old, they moved to Southfield, right down. We grew up in a street called Westland, which is a few streets on the Southfield side of 8 Mile and Evergreen. Okay. And so I grew up in like the Detroit side of Southfield, not the Jewish side.
Okay.
And
now,
just for the sake of the geography of it.
Okay. Now, when you talk about that area, what about your grandparents? Are they from the Michigan, Detroit area, or are they from, further west, further east? Whereabouts?
They both originally, on both sets of my family, my mom and my dad's side, grew up in Michigan. Okay. And now on my dad's side, they moved to Florida. Okay. But on my mom's side, they still live in Westland.
Okay. So this whole concept of like staying in Metro Detroit, that whole area, the suburbs of Detroit, has been a tradition thing for as long as you remember.
Yeah, pretty much. There is a year and a half that I helped my brother out with some business when I was figuring out what I wanted to do in college. And I realized I was wasting my money. There was a year to a year and a half of my life that I lived in a city called Gastonia in North Carolina. Okay. It's like a half an hour away from Charlotte. Okay. And but even then I still came back. There were times that I was so indecisive of what I wanted to do with my life that when we would go back and visit home, we would stay for like 3 months before we went back to North Carolina. So that would, I'd say that was really the only time that I, for an extended period of time, that I kind of left this area for now.
Okay. How old were you when you were in Gastonia?
I was around 21.
Okay. What was that like?
That was interesting. I didn't hate it. It's different how, depending on who's in office, the different vibe that you get of just the people that you live around, because I can't imagine living in a Republican area in this day and age. I feel like that would the entire vibe would be different living in that same city today, where if everybody's happy, Obama's president, whatever, it would there was just a happier vibe. Even when George Bush was in office, it wasn't as gloomy or decisive between your neighbors. So I got along with all my neighbors. I realized, I didn't really want to do sales. I pretty much went there to help my brother doing door-to-door sales, a business that, he's had for a long time. Okay. And help him. He coincidentally moved there to start the business during the same time that it was our spring break when I went to Eastern Michigan. And then during that week, I realized I would rather make money than waste money just going to college, because I was only going to college just because I felt like that was the thing you're supposed to do. That was just fed to me as like, that's what adults do. They go to college, and then they meet a person, they get married, they buy a house, and they have a kid, and all in that order or whatever, you know. And I realized that just wasn't the life that I wanted. It just never felt right. Everything that I went to college for, whenever I would change my major, it was essentially just changing my major to pick something that I thought that I could do, not necessarily something that I wanted to do. And you can never compete in a field of passionate people. Like when I was like, I could be a lawyer, and I'm sure I could, but there's some people that love law. And to me, I'm just like, it's interesting.
Okay.
You know, so I realized I was wasting my time, my energy, and then eventually, you know, throughout the end of it, I discovered comedy, and then I kind of just went in that direction ever since.
Okay, door-to-door sales. I've done it before. You learn a lot with door-to-door sales.
You do.
Because you learn a lot about interacting with people. You learn a lot about human behavior. I would go as far as to say that some of the techniques you've learned definitely in door-to-door sales help you with audiences, probably people. What stood out a whole lot with door-to-door sales, and the number one thing in dealing with rejection? How did you learn to do that?
Well, I think a lot of times people forget that, you know, comedians can still be very sensitive. So it was different. It's easier for me to deal with rejection in comedy than it was in door-to-door sales, because for this is something that I know that I want to do. And at the time, that was something that when I did door-to-door sales, that was just something that I knew that was what I was currently doing. I kind of knew that it was temporary, and it did bother me a lot more when I dealt with rejection. But my brother could not be less concerned with rejection. He could knock on someone's door that could ruin their day just by him knocking on their door for 2 seconds, and he'll just go to the next house. Like it's never. So I knew, but it did teach me a lot. It taught me that it's still up to you how you decide to handle the emotional aspect of rejection. You can't determine whether or not you're going to be rejected, but you can determine how it's going to affect you. And there's just so many things that I learned from door-to-door sales when I look back on it, like how important like just sales is. A lot of people, when you hear arguments about social issues, so many people think that being right is enough. They're like, but I'm right. And I'm like, and I've just learned from door-to-door sales, being right doesn't mean anything. Being right is the first step, but you still have to convince people that you're right. And I see that all the time of people that just think they're on the right side of history, or they're right in an argument. And I'm like, yes, but until you convince the person that you're right, then nothing that you're saying matters. You're just yelling out loud just for the sake of talking out loud. Because I could knock on someone's door and show them that I could save them $100 a month, and if they're still not convinced, it doesn't matter that I'm right.
Yeah.
I'm like, but I know that I'll save you money. You should sign up, and then I still don't get the sale because it wasn't presented in the right way. So I've learned a lot of things in comedy of that related to that of door-to-door sales, just because you can have an idea that's funny in your head, but if you don't present it the right way, then it doesn't mean the joke's not funny. You just have to reword it. You have to put a lot more effort into your presentation.
Now, when you talk about effort into your presentation, and you spoke on being right on like social justice, social justice is big into your artistry. It's big into your life. You care a lot about social issues. What led you into having such a strong concern about social justice and having awareness of this? Because being white, being a guy, you're looked at as almost the
I'm the enemy.
Yes, the most hated class of human beings in America.
Yeah, I think what I realized, you know, and I don't think I've been asked that question that exact way before. That's a good question. And now that I think of it now, I think it's that when I grew up, I was like one of the token white guys of my core group of friends. And I think that it was, if you grow up in a diverse environment and you realize that what the media is painting of a group of people is inaccurate, then it's not just like reading a book that you feel bad about. Like to me, it affected me because I'm like, no, these are things that affect people that I know and that I love. You know, this isn't just something that is a story where it's easy to pass off something when it doesn't affect you if you don't see it. You know what I mean? It's easy for us to eat meat. We're like, I don't see the cow getting murdered. You know what I mean? Like, you know, but when you live next door to people whose lives are affected based on laws and the way that, you know, the system can treat people, then it was just always something that I don't know. It was just always something. I think my parents just always were good on feeding my curiosity. My parents never displayed their frustration at me asking a stupid question. And so I think that kind of tied into it a lot, where I never had a moment where my parents didn't support anything that I wanted to do. At one point, I did yo-yos. I would go to malls and stuff, and I would do yo-yo tricks. And my mom, my dad in their head, they had to probably think I was insane. This is stupid. You're not going to be a professional yo-yoer. But they were like, whatever. You have fun doing it. Let's do it. So there's so many things in my life that my parents have went full support of. And I think that kind of ties into when you do grow up in a supportive environment, then it's easy for me to see the big picture of things.
All right, so the big picture of things in comedy. What led you to the stage for comedy in the first place? And when you were growing up, were you an extroverted kid? Were you always telling jokes? Were you the class clown? As you know, Josh Adams has a show on this network, and Josh has always been definitely
Josh is the most on stage the same way he's off stage person that I've ever known.
Yes. Very much, very witty, very on time. You know, Josh has his own insecurities and vulnerabilities, but it's all like together in the act and quirkiness of talent. He's combustible like that. Were you like that growing up, or was it one of those things that grew?
I failed speech class in high school my freshman year, and then my senior year, I didn't sign up for speech class, but I was given speech class, and the same speech teacher, shout out to Miss Sandra Bailey. Or Shackelford, actually. Excuse me.
Okay.
But people get married, life moves on.
Yeah,
But
exactly. Congratulations.
She knew what was best for me because she knew that speech class can only help you in life, even if you don't want to be a performer. Not being nervous when you talk to people can only help you for job interviews. It can't do any bad to be good at giving speeches. She worked on that.
Let's stop right there.
She refused to let me change my class, even though I already took another class before that counted for that same elective. I could have just picked a different class, and she was like, "No, if you pick another class, I'm going to go to the counselor and I'm going to tell them to switch back because this is something that you need because you can do this. You're not somebody that's as shy as you're letting out, and you can make it happen."
Let's stop right there for a second, just on the strength of, and my bad, I was talking over for a second. Speech, it's a lot of people afraid of public speaking, like all ages. It's actually said that public speaking is the number one fear of people, like more than
death.
Vicious, death, a vicious dog being in the room, man with gun, public speaking. And I guess for me, because maybe the way I was raised and everything, like, it's hard for me even to really get in that bag. What are some of those fears of public speaking? And now you're in front of audiences. And it's even tougher as a comedian because generally as a performer or on a stage, like, it's a rhythm. I'm very confident when I get on stage in the beginning. The nervousness sets in when the crowd starts responding differently than I expect them to. And I figure it's no other performer that deals with that more than a comedian.
I think that what it is people are scared. People think that other people care more than they do. Because even if you do bad doing comedy and you bomb, they're gonna go home and they're gonna put a DiGiorno in the oven and watch Netflix and go on with the rest of their day. They could not be more concerned. But for us, I think for some reason when we do poorly in front of other people, it sticks with us for so long because we wish we would have did better. But that doesn't mean, but we shouldn't beat ourselves up. That's fine to want to do better, but I don't think that it's normal, but at the same time, we shouldn't act that way. We shouldn't continue to think that it's the biggest thing in the world. And so I didn't know what it was. When I failed speech class, I just wouldn't even if she forced me to do a speech, the ones that I did well on, but it took so much energy for me to do it. I got so nervous beforehand that I would just not do it. I just didn't do enough speeches to pass the class.
Wow.
So, but it wasn't that the other ones I didn't do bad, but I think there was a seed that was planted because once again, speech class came up again in college when I went to Eastern. And the first speech that we had to do was a demonstration speech, and then I picked demonstrating how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I made it funny, and other people were doing a speech about tying a tie in 50 different ways, and I was like, that's way too much work. I don't want to have to learn something to give a speech. I just want to learn the speech. And when people laughed, I realized, wow, I'm not nervous now. I know that the audience doesn't hate me, so therefore it's easier for me to give my speech. And I think that's not that, I think it wasn't exactly when I started comedy. It might have been like a few years later after that I actually started to get into it or to think about it. But it definitely, I think, planted a seed later on in life that there are ways to make it more comfortable for you. And still to this day, I still get nervous in things that I don't think people would ever imagine a comedian would be nervous, because I think naturally I'm an introvert. So naturally, I'll be funny to the person next to me, but I don't care if the person across the room thinks I'm funny. That's who I am naturally. So there's moments where it's like my sister owns a daycare, and she could be like, hey, thanks for visiting, Jeff. Hey, why don't you read a story to these kids? And I'm sitting there, I'm nervous reading a story to kids. And I'm like, I've been on TV. You know what I mean? I'm like, I've been in environments where there's thousands of people in the audience or at home that were watching this, and I was less nervous because I knew how it would go. I'm like, I've done this before. This joke gets this reaction. I understand that this is a big moment, but it doesn't change that I know what's going to happen. I know I'll do well in this environment. Where reading a book, I'm like, what if I don't do the character right? What if she's used to her mom doing the king's voice in this way, and I'm oh crap, these kids don't even care. I don't know. Those are the weird, funny things, the insecurities that are actually in some of our heads that I think some people wouldn't realize that on the outside, just looking at comedians.
Now, on the flip side, I do think the toughest crowds are like the young kids. Oh yeah, because they have their attention spans are so short, and they have little. Yeah, it's like they're giving you a little bit of stage time. Yeah,
they'll hand me a book, tell me to read the book, and then a page later he'll just walk and go to another room, and I'm like, I don't think I did a good job.
Yeah,
I don't think
it's like young David.
I think I just bombed.
Yeah, it's like young David. Rapunzel didn't even get to.
Yeah, we didn't even get to the meat of the story.
Exactly. So that's also one of those things that I found opposite just in performing myself in music. Yeah. That, especially with those young kids, this is so true. The more over the top you are and exaggerated, it actually, internally it seems like you're over the top. Yeah. But externally, people are into it more. Yeah. And the more like cool you try to be, the more people start looking at you and like sense the nervousness. Yeah. Like a dog smelling fear or something. Yeah. And it kind of makes people respond.
That's absolutely true. I would say, because one thing, I haven't done too much acting, so I'm not talking like I'm a pro here, but there was a play that I did, and in the play, the woman that I worked with the most, she was pretty much telling me like, okay, so you're not naturally an actor, Jeff, so you don't have to worry about overdoing this. Like, there's some people that are naturally outgoing, so if they try to bring more energy, it might be too much energy. It might be overacting. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But for me, I'm not a Jim Carrey character. You know what I mean? I'm not the person, the rubber face personality. So for me, if I give more energy, it just looks like I'm a little bit more excited. Like I'm not, but in your head, you're like, well, I don't want to overdo it. And it's like, no, you're not going to overdo it. Yes. And that's another thing that I've learned. I've done a little bit of improv, is that I have to remember how reserved I am naturally, because when I'm playing a character, when I'm doing an emotion, when I have to tell the audience something with some energy, I have to do effort. I have to make effort doing that. I can't just think that I can't play it cool and think that the audience is going to like it, because you're right. If you play it cool, the audience will sometimes that comes off as more nervous because there's no inflection in your voice. You're just too cool to talk. Your voice can start shaking, and that's a good point.
I'm recording a spoken word album with an artist right now, and we went, and this is the first time he's recording, and I was telling him the difference in even selling things, because rapping most of my life, and I learned these skills over time, but some things I may not necessarily be the best master teacher, and I can just present to a person, but it's a way to present words. Rap and comedy are the same in the sense of you're presenting words, and the irony, spoken word is like this too, rap, spoken word, and comedy. The irony of presenting a statement as if it's a question, and sometimes a statement as if it's a question, like vice versa, if as opposed to like, that's it, so as opposed to that's it. Yeah. So like, that's it can make the line so much more than what it was before, even though you're saying the same thing. Just do the tone and inflection and the interpretation of like, that's it is more of a question than just that's it.
Delivery is really important. And I know a lot of people say that comedy or things of this nature that you can't teach it, which I don't necessarily know if that's true, as much as it's really hard to teach it, because those if you have to explain to somebody each individual line to make sure that you put inflection here, and make sure if you have to teach somebody how to talk, that's just exhausting. That's, you know what I mean? Like, so that's why it is one of those things where it's not as simple as you got it or you don't. I'm sure people can improve, but the basics of it are something that hopefully it's easier to succeed if there's something there that you just know to start with. So everything you're learning is extra. Like I was learning how to be confident on stage, but I knew basics of comedy. You know what I mean? Like I've watched comedy. So it does amaze me sometimes how much further along some people are than I was when I started, and then it amazes me some other times, not to be too negative or talk trash about people, but some other people, like how far behind they are, where they're like, oh, you never thought about a callback? Whereas, how did you have to learn that? You know what I mean? Like certain things.
Whereas, do you think it's more so the effort being put in, and the or lack of effort being put in? Because some people sit in a space of all forms of creativity where they define themselves by artistry and like, yo, this art is my life and this is what I love. But in reality, I think it's like more so it's like a docking station. I don't know what the hell I'm doing in life, but it's easy to say that I'm a spoken word artist, a visual artist, a rapper,
and then you automatically
a singer,
Yes. And if you are a part of any of those groups that you just mentioned, then you at least have some acquaintances to start with. And I think so many people just want to do something for the buddy aspect of it, as like almost like a fraternity or sorority type of environment, instead of actually the craft itself they like. Because there's a lot of people that me and Josh have both met throughout the years where they'll ask us advice on like a joke. And then we'll be like, oh, well, what if you did this? And then they'll just never do that. And then we're like, well, that's fine if you didn't take our advice, but you're continually doing it the same way that hasn't worked. So why, like, you know what I mean? I think some people just don't want to put the effort in, or they're not. I think self-awareness is really important. I think you need to be very self-aware at knowing what you're good at and what you're not good at, so you know what you can improve at. If you think you're the best at everything, then you're never going to get better.
Well, the tough thing, I think, even with comedy in reference to that is, who you are matters so much too. Like the look, things that you don't have control, variables you don't control. And also just in the guilty pleasure, I like seeing rappers bomb and comedians bomb. Like rappers and comedians bombing is like it's like an art form to me that like I appreciate. It's bad though. It's like, you know how certain times people like look at a car crash? It's even more dramatic than that for me. Like,
I feel
like when you look at a comedian bomb, And then they're up there like, woo, like Deion Cole used to have the line where it's like when comedians keep saying it's crazy out here.
Oh,
you know, so like a comedian gets up there, and then especially dealing with black rooms because heckling is coming.
Yeah,
you know, shut the hell up, like get off the stage. You know that's coming. And then you're like, whoa,
black people
how's he
are
going
also
to get out of this?
The funny thing to me is that black people are severely less likely to commit suicide based on the actual population of statistics and everything like that.
Yeah.
But they're way more likely to tell somebody to kill themselves. Like just as a saying. Like there's been so many times where I've seen a show where somebody's like, you need to kill yourself. And it's just like, because he's not funny? Because he's not doing well today, he should die.
Yes,
that's a big jump there.
And then this is just like seeing a rapper bomb or a comedian bomb. Part of it is also seeing their response when they get off stage and then come back to you in the social circle. Yeah. You know, and they be like, you know what I'm saying? You know how I be out here hating on me and everything. You know, and it's like, you took the L.
Oh, yeah. That's why I love there's a comic that I started with named Jeremiah Pauling, and he's great. I love Jeremiah. I don't got anything bad to say about him. However, in this specific story, I want to say he did bomb, but he bombed better than anybody to this day that I've ever seen bomb. Because when he got off stage, he immediately went up to me and was like, "They didn't like that shit."
Hilarious.
Oh man, like he was just I saw the expression on his face. He was like, all right, whatever, let's get a drink. You know, like he could not be he could not be any less concerned with, like, of course everybody wants to get better, wants to do better, but he wasn't blaming the audience. He wasn't, and maybe there could, I don't even remember how it went. The audience could have easily have had some blame. They could have been rude to him to start with. Maybe they didn't like how he was dressed. I don't know. I don't even remember the incident as much as just afterwards, him just like, well, they didn't like that shit. And I was like, damn, not everybody's built that way. A lot of people have to immediately start pointing fingers. And even if that's true, it's just not productive. That's why when people say it's never the audience's fault, of course there's times when it's the audience's fault. But what did you learn from just blaming the audience? You didn't learn anything. So it's kind of like one of those things where we have to lie to ourselves if we want to get better. Where it's like, if you really want to get better, you have to kind of pretend that it's never the audience's fault, because then what are you going to learn?
Yeah.
Why did you go up? You should at least learn something from when you... But that's what I was going to say earlier. When you're talking about bombing, I feel way worse for rappers though, because there's still an instrumental.
Yeah, the music is playing.
They can't go off of the plan, like where we have an idea where we can at least adjust. We can at least be like, well, that one guy likes me. Everybody else hates me, but if he likes me, I might at least leave with one fan. You know what I mean? You can try to make fun of people. Like there's things that you can do to try to improve your situation. Where if you're bombing as a rapper, then it's like they're just not listening to you.
Yeah.
And you're performing for no reason. You have a group of people that are all in this room, and none of them care that you're on stage. But you still got 3 more songs to do after this. You can't just be like, end the set early. You know what I mean? You can't. It's tough. I feel worse for them, for their performance.
And I've seen it all, especially rap shows. Like I really want to do a parody movie on just hip hop open mics, because like it's kind of like spoken word a little bit, where like the rapper that gets on stage, it's like they give all their disclaimers already. Yeah. For why you want it. It's kind of when I tell men why they often get rejected by women. It's like you start giving outs for her not to approach you. Like so, like rappers get on stage and they start saying like, yo, y'all probably not gonna like this one, you know what I'm saying? But this is for my heart, you know what I'm saying? I was feeling this, or I just dropped this, so I don't really know all of this right now, you know what I'm saying? It's like they get a context of like, this is one of my old songs, but this is what I was feeling today. Hey yo, drop that, not that one, the next one, the next one. No, all right, for sure. All right, y'all ready? Y'all from the east side? And it's like,
so
hey,
good.
Man. And it's like the crowd every
You talked them out of
moment.
it. That's just like sales. That goes back to sales again. They'd be like knocking on somebody's door and being like, all right, now I'm sure you already got a better deal with WoW.
Yeah.
But let me tell you what I got for Comcast. And then you're just giving him an out to be like, yeah, you're right, I got a better deal. All right, I got to go. And the same thing, you're just like, all right, well, you don't have confidence in it. Why should I have confidence in it?
Yeah, just like so many guys approach women with the whole, you probably don't talk to guys that, like me.
Yeah, I'm probably not your type. I know what you're saying.
Like, well,
I know what you're thinking.
I never thought that you were or not, but now that you presented information about not being my type, I guess you were.
Yeah, I guess you're right. My type is somebody that wouldn't approach me like that. That's it.
And there's some guys out here that are like broke without, you know what I'm saying, a pot to piss in and a window to throw it out of, but they like stick wallpaper everywhere and approach every woman. And you're like, how did this broke ass guy always win?
He's not fortunate looking.
No,
I'm trying not to say ugly. I'm trying to say fortunate looking now.
He's uneasy on the eyes. He's broke. He doesn't have a place to stay. And you always see him with women.
Yeah.
Attractive, got stuff going
and
on
some
with
of those
it,
guys
but it's
aren't
like
even lying.
probability and statistics. It's like sales.
Yeah. Yeah. Probability and statistics. There's the math problem.
Yeah,
and sometimes it's just confidence.
It's like I got to approach 25 women. And it gets to a certain point where, and Josh said this with stages, and I definitely haven't been performing, and I don't think my chops in performance are like this, but sometimes it gets like this. It's scary. Where he was like, man, sometimes it's like I'm levitating when I'm up there. But as a performer, when the crowd is with you, like I think it's two types of performers. And the best examples I give are always the Parliament Funkadelics, where I feel like that's always the feel I wanted. Like where it's experiential, where me and the crowd are essentially the same. Which I don't know if comedy can be like that. And then there's people like James Brown that are a spectacle. But either way, it's sometimes where it's an energy of a show where the crowd is in tune with the performance and it's just experiential.
Yeah. Josh does do that because the more that you can make it feel like we're all a part of this is in shows that, it's harder. It would be harder to do like in a theater, but in a comedy club or a smaller bar or whatever setting, if you're talking to different people in the audience and you're not insulting them, but you're just talking to them. Or if you're insulting them in a way, because I know some people will roast the crowd. Or even if you do roast them, if you roast them in a way that Josh could, it's just on the way that you phrase things. I've seen Josh make fun of people in a way that made them feel better. Because instead of insulting somebody's weird pants, if somebody had on some bright purple weird pants or something like that, you could just make fun of them for having purple pants. But he would give them a compliment and say the exact same insults and be like, you know how sweet you are? Because you got the confidence to come in here looking like blah, 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 blah. I would never be able to wear blah, 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 man, but you pulling it off. Whatever his, obviously it would be a lot funnier, but Josh, it's like, that's his style is bringing up the things that other people would roast somebody about, but in a way to where that person isn't insulted. And if you do that all around the room, a little bit between jokes here and there, then the entire audience feels like, okay, this is a family. We're a part of this with him. This is a show that I'm a part of. Even if I don't talk, I'm a part of this experience.
Yeah, when he did, and I'm still laughing about that. Like, it was a guy, and he kind of just had the hair like Donald Glover. And he was like, oh, man, it's like a fat childish Gambino. And then he was like, this is an apple pie. And it was just like, man, he was like, nah, you cool, fam. Yeah. It just was like, it was so funny and just the timing.
Yeah, and it wasn't personal enough that anybody would, he's not cutting too deep. It's just very creative. Yeah. But without being, too personal.
Now, as we talk about that in your style of comedy, you actually set up a lot of jokes under a premise, and you have I don't want to say message, but it's a context to a lot of your comedy.
Yeah. How
did you even get into this style? Because it's more cerebral, more thought out. Your jokes are, it's not like 1, 2, 3, pop, 1, 2, 3, pop. It's building.
I think what it was there's the easy way. The easy way to doing something is very often not the best way of doing it. And it would be easier for me to pick topics that aren't going to make anybody upset. Just this is the joke, get a laugh. That might be easier for me, but if I've always felt like I had the potential to take it to another level. And in order to do that, I feel like I might have to talk about things that won't be comfortable for everybody, because there's only so many Jim Gaffigan, Brian Regans, and that's just not the style I have. And I love their comedy. They're fantastic. They're amazing. But I don't have the ability to find as much things funny about the everyday, things about life. I do have some aspects of that. I do have some observational material, but a lot of what I want to make funny is the stuff that would require a lot of trial and error and be a little bit different of a setup, where it's, if you're not down with part of it, you might not like this whole set then, but I've wanted to be more like that because I feel like I didn't start that way. And I've always admired comics who were exactly who they were from day one, where for me from the very beginning, I was more like, well, what's funny? All right, I'm going to say funny stuff. That's as far as I thought. I didn't use that weird accent that I just made up. I don't know why I talk like I was from Jersey. I don't know. Exactly. But I was just, I like, if I made up a joke pretending, in order to make this joke, I had to pretend that I smoked cigarettes. And I said that I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't. I've got nothing against people to do. You know what I mean? Yeah. But that was how the joke. So then I was like, well, wait a second. I don't want to be lying off of little tiny things to just for the sake of doing it. I want to be more honest with myself. It's easier for me to have continuity in my set without having to make sure, oh, well, if I lied about this, does that contradict to this thing later on? And so I just wanted to have a more honest style of comedy that was more unique because it was more honest. Because I just felt like that I am a unique person. So by not being myself, I'm not being the best comedian that I can be.
Now, as you venture more into telling things that are closer to your heart, does it impact you more if the audience response is not even following it or non-concerning, because you're talking about some heavy shit?
Yeah, and I learned from those moments where sometimes it's on the presentation. Sometimes some people like to be spoon-fed, where they like to be tricked into, like I have a joke that talks about white privilege, but the beginning of the joke talks about Scooby-Doo, So I found some elements of tricks that I've learned of. It doesn't always have to be presented as this is the big topic. And to make things like that a little bit easier, because you can lose the audience, and when you lose the audience, it's hard when it's a longer bit. It's like, well, do I just abandon this joke now? Because I feel like you white people are really uncomfortable about this. Yeah. Or you whatever people that are making up the audience, because sometimes there's a racial reason if I lose the audience that may be attached to why I lost them on that.
Yeah, I can imagine. And you've been traveling more and more and more as of recently. Like I can remember maybe about 2.5 years ago, we did that one show. Should put more effort into that show. But since then, you've never. I mean, you've been constantly traveling with comedy and taking those chances, and that's led you to your Comedy Central special, working with Kevin Hart. Share a little bit about that story and what that journey was like.
It was great. I did a show called Kevin Hart Presents Heart of the City. And each episode he goes around the entire country, and each episode focuses on a specific city, highlighting 4 comics in that city. And I did well on the audition to get on the show, and then I did well on the show itself, and that led me to the another show as well. So from the next show it got me was I recorded a half hour on a show called Kevin Hart Presents The Next Level. And that's a half an hour comedy. It's a half an hour comedy special, but like you essentially, you record a half an hour, 8 minutes of it is commercial. But what's unique about this one is that it starts off with a 2-minute interview of Kevin Hart interviewing me. So that's kind of what's different about this show as opposed to a standard Comedy Central Presents, is that it's produced by a guy named Joey Wells. He's part of the Kevin Hart's camp. And it has Kevin Hart's stamp on it, but of him interviewing me, learning about my life and everything like that. And so, but the entire journey was kind of very is a lot. It's a lot of emotion, because my first goal in comedy was literally, I thought you made it if you were just on a flyer. I was like, oh yeah, people are promoting you that's the person they're gonna see. Like I thought that was done. You know what I mean? And I always put the effort forth to get something like this, but I never expected it. I never felt like it was something that I had to have. I never had like an arrogant attitude about it. I was more like, I'm going to put all the effort that I can, but I enjoy the whole journey. So wherever I end up, that's what was supposed to happen, you know? And so yeah, the special, it airs next Friday, August 24th. I'm going to have a viewing party. If anybody wants to come out and watch it live with me, I'll be in Ferndale at Zeke's Barbecue, 9 Mile, just west of Woodward. And I'll get there around 9, but it airs at 11. Anybody can watch it as well on the Comedy Central website. You can watch it there. If you need a cable login, I'll just message me on Facebook. I'll give you mine. We need those views. So
Gotcha.
there's always, thinking back about it, it's just an amazing experience for me to record, especially also at the venue. I recorded it at the Orpheum Theater in LA, beautiful theater. And so I'm just very grateful that I was given the opportunity, and I was happy that it went well, and I'm excited to see it.
Now, things are already transitioning because of this opportunity. Last year's opportunity created this. And now you're getting more offers and everything.
Yeah.
How are you keeping a level head, as I'm sure, the people around you now respond to you different, look at you different. It's just natural in any culture, especially the competitive nature in comedy of, when you're giving an opportunity in a world of artistry where people feel that opportunities are scarce.
Yeah.
Whether it's true or whether it's not true, the perception is that.
Is it? Yeah.
How are you leveling your head, as I'm sure you're getting even the compliments. Probably sometimes it's like yeah, you getting out here now. It's like, am I accepting this as a compliment, or is this kind of some shade? Like,
yeah. I know what you mean. I think I've been lucky that some of my best friends in comedy are just really funny. You know what I mean? So it's easy to be humbled when, like, my best friends in comedy, Ron Taylor and Josh Adams. And to me, I'm like, just because it's not negative about me, you know what I mean? But I think they're funnier than me. You know, I don't care. I don't view this as competitive. I view, as much as some people do. But as long as I'm surrounded by other people that are great at what they do, then I'll always have a level for myself to improve. So, I'm lucky that I have a lot of friends that are doing great things in their careers as well. And so I don't look at this like I made it, like I'm done, you know what I mean, or whatever. Like, there's still other things that have to be done. And so for me, it's not too hard for me to be level-headed about it.
Okay. All right. And then family. What's family like now? As I'm sure the journey of being a comedian always like has your mom, your dad, brothers and sisters like, okay, so what are you doing?
Yeah, my family's always been supportive about it. From the beginning, they've always been pretty supportive about me doing it, even when I wasn't that good. And but especially now, they're just very happy for me. Like, my mom and my brother came out to LA to watch the special be recorded, and I've always had a lot of support from my family. They're very excited for everything that that's happening or that will happen in the future.
Okay, so what's next? What do you see happening next? What's gonna be the big thing?
Eventually, at some point, my plan is to move to LA. I don't have an exact date set yet for that, but I'd like to move to LA relatively soon, and kind of just pursue another level of comedy. And luckily, the credits, the Kevin Hart credits will make it easier for me than as opposed to just going there with nothing. But regardless, at the end of the day, there's people that have went there with nothing too. So that's why I feel like I really don't have any excuse, because I know people that are doing great out there with nothing, but they went there with nothing but their talent.
Yeah,
and
Ron is a great example.
Yeah, exactly. Ron went there living in a van for a couple of years. He never consistently had like a real job, and LA is expensive, but he still found, he found a writing gig. He'd meet the right people. He was funny. He always made sure that working on his craft was his number one priority, and that everything else had to follow under that. Because if that's where if I'm moving to LA, I'm not moving to LA for the nice weather. I mean, partially. That's not bad that they have nice weather, but it's definitely, you have to take it seriously.
Okay, now we're gonna wrap up with the classic Detroit is Different questions.
All right.
Here we go. The first one, your very first car, year, make, and model, and what year did you get it?
I had an '01 Hyundai Sonata.
Okay.
A silver 01 Hyundai Sonata. I got it. Let's see. I think right before I went to college, so maybe 2006. Okay. 2007.
Okay. How many? Where was the first place you drove when you got it?
That's a good question. Well, first, just a friend of my mom's, a coworker of my mom. Actually, he was gonna sell the car, and then all the money that he got from it, he was going to donate to a charity, to an animal charity. So he just told me as long as I donated some money to an animal charity, he'd give me the car. So I essentially got a free car.
White privilege.
Yeah. Oh, hey.
Hilarious.
Hey. So I was like, I'm not complaining about that, and I got a great
society for forever. Then.
I took that as I drove the car as far as I could until it could not work anymore.
The wheels fell off.
Yeah.
How long did you did it take for the wheels to fall off?
Took some years, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. It got over the 300,000 mile mark. Was when it starts to, and it definitely had some quirks.
Okay.
It definitely was time when I laid it to rest. But I think I just met up whatever parking lot that, the school parking lot. I think my mom used to work at Dearborn Schools. So it was just whatever road that was where I drove it first, though.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. You took it for a test drive.
Yeah. The test drive.
Even though you got a free car, basically. You still wanted to test drive it.
Yeah, well, because he wanted to be professional about it. He wanted... To me, I was like, no, I'm taking the car, man. No, you ain't talking me out of it. I don't care what's wrong with your car. But from his perspective, he's like, well, I wanted you to ride it first. And I'm like, okay, I'll ride it first. Make sure this free car is good enough for me.
Exactly. So he's one of those old school. Like, he needs to be in education. It's like, we're still going to do this formally.
Yeah.
It's like, meet me at the officer of the deeds, and I'm going to change the registration over you. It's like, dude, if you don't give me the damn keys... trying to drive, man. I got places to go. All right, so second, you are the DJ at Woodward and Jefferson. The fireworks just ended, and you get to play 3 songs. What 3 songs are you playing?
See, because every time I've been a DJ, I don't think I care about other people.
Okay, so what 3 songs are you playing?
The location might not even...
But it's the end of the Detroit fireworks. That's the thing. Because that may affect
impact
your
that is
mood,
true. Yeah, it's the end of the fireworks. Something uplifting. 3 songs?
3 songs.
I'm trying to think of 1 song.
3.
You want me to think of 3 songs? I feel like I'd play. I might be able to break it down into artists before I break it down into what songs. But I'd probably play some order of Outkast, Eminem, and Jay-Z. Would be 3 of the ones that I would have a high enough collection of songs that I like to be like, I could pick something random from them, and they're not going to mess anything up in the situation.
No, you got to give me some songs then. Outkast, what song you playing?
Let me think. I'd probably play... I probably would just play one that everybody's more familiar with. I'd probably for Outkast just play some hey something. You know what I mean? That just not try to rock the boat and do something too specific that nobody's heard. Some random track off of some inside thing.
Eminem?
No, I'm wondering if I want to play Eminem now. I'm trying to think. I suck at remember the names of songs is my issue. I just listen to so much music and just like a random just play it that I can't remember the names of songs. But because now I'm thinking, I don't know that I've always liked the song Renegade, which would combine Jay-Z and Eminem. There's a lot of stuff from Blueprint that I could pick that I like for Jay-Z. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just musically less than. I don't know how to say that. I don't know the wording on that. I was late to music, and then I listened to so much of it at once that now it's like I could play songs. You could play a song and I can know all the words, and I have no idea what album it's from. I have no idea the title of the song, but I mess with that song. You know what I mean? Like that's where I've been on the music spectrum.
Okay.
So I'm sorry to fail the music portion.
Question.
Of this.
Hilarious. And then the last question: if you could rename Woodward after one Detroiter, who would it be and why?
If I could be renamed after one Detroiter?
If Woodward could be renamed after one Detroiter, who would it be and why?
If Woodward could be renamed off of one Detroiter, I would. I'm trying to think of who has done the most. I'm debating between what would just be a funny person to name it off of, or who's done the most good for the city of Detroit in history. I'd probably just to say that I did. I probably would just I was gonna name it off of Josh, but he's from Oak Park. I was just gonna give him a street just to Josh, be nice.
Just give Josh a street. Just
to be nice. That way I always have the upper hand on the friendship.
Hilarious.
You know what I mean? Where it's just like he could be like, I could owe him $20 and be like, bitch, I named a street after you. You know what I mean? Like there's, you know what I mean? Like that would always. I'd always have that in my back pocket.
Well, yeah, because I don't know what would be happening on Darius Bennett Avenue.
Yeah.
He's some wild boy behavior. Darius Bennett would be boy.
Oh, man, you guys really do pick on Darius a lot on here, don't you?
I love Darius, man. I love Darius. Darius is a wild. Hey. But yeah, so that's it, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.